still doesn't know my name. My name is still Buddy, so I'm sure it was something along those lines. Yeah, everybody talks about that moment, and yeah, I'll be truthful and be very transparent. It probably was an opportunity that you know springboarded me to the Final Four. But the reality is I would hope that anybody on this call would have, the way that coach acted, it was just an automatic technical foul. So, but you still got to be ready for a moment when it comes down the pike like that.
Um, at the time you worked the Final Four, June Courteau was our national coordinator. What did that phone call? How did that phone call
go? You want me to be really honest? I was actually in the middle of changing my son's diaper when the phone call came. So my hands were full, I guess, to put it bluntly. So, the gravity of the moment wasn't quite there when I actually got the phone call. But then a little while later, it settled in. But I literally was in the middle of changing a diaper when that phone call came. So it was, surreal, but it was also, it's just basketball too. So it was, but it was a very special moment.
Just a little advice for our officials during this COVID experience that we're all going through. What is something that you what's some advice that you have for our officials, to work on while we're kind of waiting to see what happens?
Truthfully, it is a fraternity and a sorority of a lot of friends and family in this industry. And, so, a lot of us are constantly checking up on one another. And, I communicate with Matt pretty often, yourself, and Aaron, I just talked to the other day. And, I think there's some basketball things that we need to have this continuing ongoing education and, try to keep ourselves relevant. But I really think this is an opportunity and I've learned this over the last several weeks, is just to put some deposits in the family and friends bank, so to speak, as far as really, we can't be face to face with some of our friends and family, but, really keep reaching out and communicate, with as many people as possible, but more so with the family that you are around. Just really, put some time in, because this business, this endeavor it's really time consuming. So, from a basketball standpoint, it's a good opportunity to dust off the rule books, read the rule books. I've actually looked at a little bit of game film from this last season, and just trying to prep some presentations and some game film and some clips. So yeah, there's definitely plenty that can be done.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Real quick, for those of you that were not on the call last week, again, we want to thank the three individuals that are actually on this game. We'll be breaking down the Clovis Las Cruces High quarterfinal game. The officials are Sean Manuelito, who is on the call, Jared Story, and Curtis V. Hill. Mind you, again, what we're doing today isn't to bash these guys or put them down, but it's definitely a learning tool, and hopefully we can all improve with the information that Kyle gives us based off of this game. So the way we'll work is we'll go through the game, we'll break down a few clips, we'll actually hit some of the timestamps that Kyle's gone over, and then at the very end, like I said, if you have questions, save those questions for the end. We'll try to get through this as quickly as possible so we have some time to ask Kyle some questions. So,
hey Nate, are all three of those guys on this call right now tonight?
I don't see Curtis or Jared currently. I believe it's Sean. Sean, are you? Let me unmute you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Sean is on.
Cool.
Yep. All right, let's get started.
Match up very well. It's the bigs. I mean, both these teams have good size, and they have good guards.
I don't know if there's any way you can turn down the audio. We probably don't even need the audio.
Yeah, I can do that.
But you know, I just want to reiterate what Nate said about, you know, plenty of us, this business, this vocation, it's really easy to kind of you know, kind of chew up one another and this and that. And you know what? The whole purpose of this exercise isn't to put anybody on blast. It's not to point out deficiencies or anything like that. It's just a learning environment for everybody. And I know one of my bosses that I work for, they constantly talk about, you know what, if you don't want to be talked about and you don't want to have your plays up there and you don't want to miss any plays, then don't take the big games, you know? So with that being said, I just got to say, I watched this game in its entirety. And, you know, Sean, I know you're on the call, and I just got to say to the group, you know, if we as officials do a lot of the things that this crew did in this game, you will find success. As long as you're as good a person off the floor as these guys were on the floor, I really think you will get your share. You will get some success. You know, Sean, and you can pass it on to Curtis and Jared. I thought
Jared
you guys did
jumped on.
really. What's that?
Jared just jumped on.
Okay, Jared, good. I'm glad you can hear. You know, you guys really should be commended. I in the overall totality of the game, I thought you guys did a really nice job, and we'll get into more specifics. But as a whole, it's just that's the kind of game you want to go. And you know, 2 coaches and 10 players, and everybody's relatively very pleased. So you know, commend yourself. And a lot of the stuff I have is just sharpening that razor's edge, because it was a very good job, and it just some fine tuning. So with that being said, yeah, let's jump right into it. First timestamp 7:13 of the first, Nate. This is, and you will see this throughout the first couple minutes, White or Las Cruces, if I say Las Cruces or White, but they're a little bit handsy to start the game. Now, I didn't see anything immediate wise that like we want to crack one of these, but I just think this is an opportunity. And Sean, since you're the closest official to this play, this is a great play to establish some verbal presence. You know, hey, hands, let me see the hands, guys, hands. You know, maybe save that whistle, don't crack it. If it's egregious enough, yes, but if they give you an opportunity to just pop the voice, tell them, get those hands off, let them know that you're going to be watching for that. That's just a good opportunity. I would guess too, you can pause it, Nate. I would guess too that there was a really effective and well-established pregame, because you can tell there was kind of a plan that was implemented pretty well. And I know one thing that I think this is important for everyone at any level is when you get in that pregame, set a blueprint for what you want that game to look like. And one of the things that I like to abide by and really try and implement is within the first couple of minutes of that game, any game, but especially in a game like this, you're in a state quarterfinal, everybody's excited. The players are amped up. The coaches are amped up. We are excited with the assignment. There is this anxiousness and anxiety and just overall excitement. And you have to temper that. And we don't want to come out and what I call, we have a golden whistle. It's our first call of the game, first call of the second half, or in some instances, first call of each period and the last call of the game. Those are our golden whistles. You just want them to be high certainty. You want them to basically call themselves. And sometimes with that, I'll mention to a crew, let's withstand a little bit of the ugly to start the game. Ugly, not illegal. If something is egregious and it's, 5 seconds after you throw it up, somebody gets knocked to the floor, foul's a foul. But right here's a perfect example. We're 47 seconds into the game. We got a little bit of handsiness. Is it a foul by rule, by definition? Probably. But use your voice, talk them out of it. It's a little bit of ugliness, but we can establish somewhat of flow to the game. We can get the game going. We don't get any of our better players in foul trouble. It just allows for a much cleaner, smoother game. And then just jump ahead So that was a 7:13. Go to 6:55. Pause. Back it up a little. Okay, pause right here, Nate. Just one sec. Okay, so now this is a play right here that if you allow to get swept up by that excitement and just that moment and you're kind of angsty, I can assure you that you will probably put a whistle on this play just because it's like, oh, that looks like it's too much. But if you just stay poised, allow the game to just come to you. This, to me, we're only a minute and 5 seconds in, but to me, it's such an important no call. I absolutely love this no call because it just, once again, it just kind of establishes the kind of flow and kind of, we're going to let the athletes play kind of game. And I just know from experience and watching a lot of basketball, if we put whistles on this play right here, we're probably going to be in for a longer night than we need to. So go ahead and play it through, Nate. I want to play it back one more time. Okay, so just talk about positioning. I love our positioning. Actually, back it up just a little bit, about the 7-minute mark. Essentially on this play, pause. We actually do have two center officials, but we have Jared coming over in the lead. So I'm okay with Sean staying in his position because if you have an open look, don't vacate an open look just because he comes over. We can have two centers. That's all right. Two trails, different story. You got Curtis coming down to fill the new center position, getting in great position. Self-talk is probably going, here comes a curl play, my play, my play. Sean's still engaged on the backside, and then we just let it play it out. And we have some body contact, shooter draws some contact, ball goes in. We don't put a whistle on it. Excellent start. Now, Jared, pause this right here.
You want me to unmute, Jared?
You can if you want, but yeah, back it up on the inbounds, 6:51.
You're going to tell me to stay on the baseline?
Yeah, I'm just going to, like I said, you guys did so many things right. This is just one little tweak that I would have for you personally. I mentioned it a few times in timestamps throughout the game. Just here's the thing is it doesn't hurt us this whole entire game is there are times that you are actually in front of the ball handler. Now, by definition, the word trail is we're trailing the play. So, yeah, stay out of bounds till the ball's thrown in. You will allow you to see a out-of-bounds violation. And I know some people might be like, well, Kyle, there's nobody there. There's really no competitive matchup. That is a very true statement. But here's the thing. It's by doing the little things all the time that one or two outliers in your career, when you get caught slipping and you're not doing the little things, it'll bite you. So I always just say that fundamentally and mechanically, just try and do those things right all the time. Our boss harps on us about, you know what, it's fine. It may not hurt you, and it didn't hurt you guys this entire game, but eventually over time, you'll get caught once or twice. And you know what?
Absolutely.
It's just do the little things all the time. So that would be the one thing, and it's such an easy fix for you. But yeah, just trail the play a little bit better. And I have some other timestamps. You can see it, but I think that's just the one thing that I have for you specifically. So go ahead and play it out. Go ahead and play it, Nate.
I think there's a little lag.
Yeah. And we'll see later on in the game, but like right here, 6:45, we're in the front court. The kid's not even in the front court yet. There's a better timestamp I have. We'll get to it later, but I'll give you an explanation as to why it's kind of important to trail that play. So that play right there, hey, can you back that up, Nate? Yep. Go to about 6:40 and then pause it. Pause it. Okay. Actually, back it up a little bit more, please. So right about here, 6:44, 10 for Cruces brings the ball across. Right now, we can't see, but Sean, I would hope you're probably kind of pinching the paint as he's just, well, it's not quite even with the lane line, but you can see right here, pause. He's starting to go to weak side. I'm pinching, preparing to rotate, but I think it's an imminent drive, so I'm probably going to stay right where you're at. Fine. And then the kick happens. Play it out. And he kicks it. So when he kicks it like that, I would start that rotation. If he pulls up, if the kid stops and pops, you can go back. The other thing on this one I want to look from a mechanic standpoint is Jared, a little bit more aggressive rotation with that. Notice how we get caught stuck in a 28 trail. This isn't, pause it when 21 catches it. Right there, Nate. Okay, pause.
A little further back.
Nope, you're fine right there.
Okay.
So this is one where I just would like to see our old trail, new center, be a little bit more efficient in this rotation and stay connected to that lead who just went across, because if you drop down free throw line extended, it's not a traditional curl play, but it's more like a slash curl. It goes 45 degrees through the lane. You'll just be able to help out with the point of contact. Our old center, new trail, Curtis, he's actually in very, very good position. Probably should see it, but if the kid's a left-handed shooter, Curtis is going to have probably the best look. However, if the kid's a right-handed shooter, that's where we want Jared down further, free throw line extended, because he will have that point of contact on the elbow closest to him. So once again, it's just a fine-tuning little thing as far as mechanics, as far as coverage. Just be really efficient with our rotations. We don't miss anything here. Play it out. Not to mention, too, if Jared kind of a little bit more aggressive with that trail to center rotation, you'll be in a much better position to assist with rebounding if that ball comes off the rim. Okay, jump ahead to 5:53, or slightly before that, Nate. Okay, perfect. Just let it play out. Coming up the floor, boom, 5:53 of the first call of the period. It's an obvious foul to me. It's a guideline foul. It's a reroute. Excellent. Good decision for a first call. Okay. Play it out. Just keep playing it. Keep playing it. Excellent first call. Sean. One little thing here. We call a blocking foul. I think we watched it 2 or 3 times. It's an arm bar, it's an impede or a reroute on that ball handler. So just picking on you a tiny bit. I talk about this. I see it a lot in the summer camps. I talk about presentation accuracy. Got a great first call of the game. Just take that 9 call, make it a 10. Just make sure instead of give a block signal at the table, give an accurate storytelling. Just call. I'm sorry, the Federation mechanic, I don't know if it's this or if it's if you can do the arm bar, but that's more what it was an impede or a reroute. So save that blocking foul for when you need it. So presentation accuracy. But go back to a positive thing. That's a good first call. Next play, Nate, 5:14. Okay, so yeah, pause it. Yeah, let's back that up to about 5:20. So now we talk about consistency, which is one of the most important things of what we do out there, and we talk about sequencing. This is a perfect example. At 5:53, Sean has the hands-on, the reroute. So we have basically a hand checking foul on, let's see, it would have been, it's on Cruces, Las Cruces. So now I'm assuming number 10 is the best player for Las Cruces. Here he comes, and right at that elbow, go ahead and play it out. Defender pops him with the hand and then puts the other arm bar on, and the ball comes loose. I can tell you right now, there are not very many plays in the entirety of this game where I'm like, ooh, I think that's a no calling correct. But this one, this is just such a great opportunity for us as a crew to bookend that first foul at 5:53 with this one at 5:13. They're literally 40 seconds in proximity to one another, but they're both guideline. They're both ball handler, dribbler fouls, and it's just a perfect opportunity to just bookend those two plays, and then we establish our guideline. And you know what? Okay, so it's a miss, but I just talk about it as hopefully everybody sees that and goes, yeah, we could have had one there. So now go to 3:59. Oh, back that up. All right, can you back it up to about 4:05, Nate, before he takes to the rack? That's good. Pause it right there. Okay, and this is the first example of many that one of the things that I was absolutely just love and was impressed with the crew is throughout this game, we have a ton of these runouts and players just taking it to the hole hard. And we have some, I mean, we're talking Sports Center, like defensive plays. And this crew did such an outstanding, consistent job of rewarding the defense for just verticality, blocking the shot. We didn't put whistles on these plays, and they were consistent throughout. And you will see this is the first example here. And so, I mean, we have plenty of them to show, but this is having the fortitude and the courage to just officiate the defense. Boom, gets up, block shot. Now, the one thing I would say on this is here we have an excellent no call on the take to the basket. And then we come in with, in my opinion, a little bit of a questionable marginal rebound. And sometimes what happens is on these, right, wrong, or indifferent, just be aware that sometimes when you have some of these just amazing, ridiculously athletic block shots, it's almost like we have the anxiety come up a little bit, and we're like, oh, I can't believe that wasn't a foul. Okay, this next one's got to be a foul. So all I would say is, and share with you, is just stay that and just literally go, you know, it's block shot, big block shot, big block shot, big block shot, big block shot. So basically you have to talk yourself out of that, and you have to reverse that and go, oh no, that's too much contact. So like on this one, big block shot, let it play out, let it play out, let it play out. And if your self-talk is doing that, you'd probably be more inclined not to put a whistle on the subsequent rebounding action. I'm not saying there's not contact. I'm not saying that in another game where you have some physicality and you need to clean up some rebounding, put a whistle on it. But early on like this, we've got such an athletic game. Rebounder comes from behind. It's kind of minimal, just my opinion. Food for thought. But I will say that the plus on this one is this starts our game with just a ton of excellent no calls. All right, Nate, go to about 240. All right, here it comes. So I'll give a little storyline on this. I believe this is it's a curl play. Okay. This is an interesting play. Nate and I actually talked about it a while last night. You know what? A lot of people say, hey, the ball went in, play on, especially in this game. We have a lot of great no calls. This one's a little bit trickier, and we're in everybody, as far as coverage wise, mechanically trails just under the 28-foot. Sean is in the center, his free throw line extended, perfect position. Curl play away. Jared's in a good position in the lead. All I want is, and this is just food for thought, I'm not saying you have to, I'm not saying you don't. This is one that we got to be careful with this one, because when the offensive player alights to the basket on this curl play, you can tell when the defender defends where he starts his defensive posture and where he finishes inside that Mountain West logo. So you got to be careful with these, because he really tends to create some contact on this. The ball does go in. Some school of thought would be like, yeah, good no call. Me, I'm not mad at you one bit if you put a whistle on this, because one, if you look right there, great pause, Nate. He wraps him with his right arm, and he bellies up and bodies up to the offensive player. Good props to this kid for making this shot, because that's some pretty good contact to play through. I just think you are very, very easily defended on this if you pop it and call an N1. So just that one to Nate and I had a really good discussion about this play, because with all of the no calls that we will have in this game, it seems to fit to have a no call. But like I said, this isn't a block shot up top. This is some body contact, reroute, posturing up by the defense. So it's one you got to be careful of. And we will see here in a little bit how this conversation will carry over into another play. Okay. 140, Nate. Okay. Just play it out. And Sean, I'm not picking on you, but this is one thing that I talked about Jared and his trail positioning. This is one little tweak I'd love to see you do. Your lead movement, your lead rotation. When we go and lead, our responsibility is to sweep the lane. So when you go in rotation, treat it as literally you go block, elbow, elbow, block, and that's how you sweep that lane. And also, when you get to the opposite or the lane line that you're arriving to, don't back into your rotation. It's a little tougher to talk about on a Zoom call than it is to just literally be in a gym floor. But what I mean by that is just your body positioning. You want to be opened up to the floor rather than kind of having your shoulders parallel to the sideline. If you want me to elaborate on that, we can talk personally, but just there's a few times throughout the game that we do that. And what it makes me believe is that we're not really, like I said, sweeping the lane as we go through. Just as a guideline, just try and do, like I said, block, elbow, elbow, block to sweep that lane in rotation. And then just you can play it from here, Nate. And we watch this play right here. I would venture to guess that after going through this whole game, I bet Sean's probably the first one to say, I want this one back, because I'm pretty sure that after everybody watches this, they'll go, yeah, this one didn't fit. And you know what? We have those sometimes. You just go, darn it, I don't want that one. But especially this one right here, is if we're going to call this one, then the little curl play that we just previously talked about, that has to be a N1, definitely, for us to put a whistle on this. I think in a perfect world, we definitely don't put a whistle on this one and we just play on. So, okay. And then at 111 is just another one. Jared, same thing. If you want to play it, Nate, just go back to what I was talking about, trail positioning. This is a good example here. Pause this one right here. The reason we talk about trail positioning, once again, it doesn't hurt us in here, but there's no reason why not to possibly be, for your trail positioning, Jared, to possibly be just on the sideline where that D is on the advertising board, or even slightly maybe closer to that UNM logo at half court. The reason being is because your body positioning right here is we're basically limiting ourselves to really officiate just those two players, the on-ball matchup, which it is your responsibility. However, in another time situation, if we have a kid come up and set an on-ball screen, and it's one of those ones that jumps up quickly, it'll explode on you. And you better hope that a center official brings that screener up. If not, and they leave you to officiate that, that screen will blow up on us and we're going to left to take an educated guess. So that's the only reason why I say, just from a reasoning standpoint, just cheat a little bit further back and actually trail the play. You can still officiate this on-ball matchup, but you have a more vantage point of the horizon of what possibly could take place. So, all right, that, go to the very last play of this period, Nate, trip zeros. Whoops. Okay, yet another run out. Just play it out. That's fine. Just want to literally point out here, sometimes we hear those buzzers at the end of the horn, or we have a timeout. The crew, specifically Sean and Jared, just did a really, really nice job staying with the players, clearing the situation, making sure there's no trash talking, making sure nobody takes exception to the, the hard defensive contest. That's just a nice job to make sure that we just secure the floor before we go into the intermission between the periods. That was good. Second period. Second period, go to a play 7:35, 7:38, Nate. Just want the group to watch the play, go back to what I had mentioned earlier about golden whistle, our first call of the period. You guys can be the judge as to whether or not it's a quality first call.
7:38, Kyle?
It's actually a 7:30 seconds. It's on the sideline inbound.
Oh, yeah.
Did the play happen? Yeah, okay. So we got a sideline throw in. Big man contests the throw in. Okay. Maybe he leans on him a little bit. Sure. Maybe a different situation in a game where you need to get a foul. They could give you an opportunity on that one. But what I said earlier, as far as a first foul, golden whistle of the period, maybe not so much, especially when, if you can just wait a half a second on that entry pass, and the ball gets batted right to his teammate and there is no possession consequence, nobody's going to say anything to us if we don't put a whistle on that play. They don't lose the ball or anything. Save the big man a foul. We're all good. Still don't have our first whistle of the half, or excuse me, the period. Play on. So just food for thought. That's just kind of some self-talk coming out of a long timeout, coming out of an intermission break, is you just self-talk to yourself and say, okay, pick up right where we left off, composure, wait for a good one, wait for it, let it play out, just pick up right where you left off. 7:20. Whoops. Yet another play to the basket. Sean, only good referees, only the 53 people on this phone call might give you a hard time for having your trigger finger twitch a little on this one. But, man, very nice job. I once again, second period, I know we're well into the game, but this is withstanding a little bit of the ugly, just because I know all of us were in that lead position and we go, who gonna foul? Oh, it's gonna be a foul. If you can just fight that urge and let it play out. Here we go again. Just a really nice no call. Who cares? The hand twitches, whatever. It happens to all of us. No big deal.
The thing we talked about last night was ugly isn't always a foul.
Yep. Here's one more instance. We're still early, but this is another good hard take to the rack, and we got nothing because I don't think there's a foul. And the beauty of it is the crew did such a nice job at both ends of the floor. I don't know. I didn't see too much pushback from the coaches, and so I think the coaches appreciated the consistency. Here we go, 7:07. Little bit again, Jared, just kind of in front of that play a little bit. Just a small little mechanical tweak. You'll fix that in no time. Jump ahead, Nate, 6:08. Or, started a few seconds early, 6:12. Okay, play it from right there. Pause it. Okay, can you back it up a little bit? If you can, take the ball handler into the back of the backcourt. Okay, so.
I'm back.
Yeah, back it up a little. So our center transition, Jared does a nice job hustling, get out in front of that play. Now, the one thing we have to consider is, we talk from a mechanics standpoint all the time about, covering our areas and our middle third and this and that. But here's the thing. Sometimes we have to be mindful of our areas of, our primary areas of coverage. But we also have to anticipate if there's going to be something that pops up and it might not necessarily, be in our coverage area that could hurt us. And we always talk about go to where, we can get hurt. This is a play where I don't know if everybody's screen is clear enough, but the center official, you'll see right now, they're looking slightly ahead, going into the front court, picking up some matchups. But right here, that's a great pause at 6:09. Right there, the center's looking up into the horizon. However, there's that player, the defender, who's literally standing right in the middle of the Lobo, I believe 13. If I'm in the center position, I want to be very, very mindful of that individual because he's easily in a position that can step in and create a block charge situation, and he almost does. And if it would have occurred, I think if you just look at Jared's head movement, we really would have been guessing our tail off because it would have exploded on us and we would have been playing catch up on the play. If you can just play it a couple frames forward, see how he stops and almost catches that offensive player and gets that collision. And right here, this is a great pause. I still don't see Jared's head looking at that potential collision, looking more so to the two players in front of him. But really, this is where you got to identify where you're going to get hurt the most. And that potential collision is really what could have got us. But he slips him. Go ahead and play it, Nate. So I guess the takeaway on that is just in transition, yes, you do have area responsibility, your middle third and this and that. But on a particular play like that, if that collision would have occurred, I don't think our trail official could have saved us at all because they're too far in the backcourt. Maybe they would have took an educated guess, had a whistle because it would have been too much of a egregious collision. But the center is in perfect, ideal spot to see that play. 5:27, Nate, or slightly before that. Okay. This play, yet again, another example of just officiating the defense. I got to be honest, the first time I watched this, kid takes it to the rack, and I saw the hand come up. And Sean, I thought you had a whistle, like foul, and I was like, no, no. And then at the last second, I looked and I was like, okay, excellent jump ball. I was like, beautiful. So once again, just another example of just really, really good. It's not a no call, but a jump ball because I think he caps him. It looks a little funky, but man, just some tough nose defense. I love it. So
on that, we did talk about the center's patience and the trust in his lead on.
Oh yeah.
You know, not
yeah. And the other thing is that I think that once again, it's a testament to this crew that there was just so much trust because sometimes you get in these games and these plays, they can look gnarly. And if you have that little bit of doubt, a little bit of lack of trust, or that little bit of anxiety, you'll come from out of primary and you'll put whistles on these plays. And it just screws up our chemistry and it just breaks down that trust. And these guys were steadfast all night long in trusting each other and trusting each other's looks because from out of primary, some of these may look a little funky, but it's like I said, it's just a credit. They just trusted one another and trusted the open looks and trusted those no calls.
Real quick, I want to just the first male of the NMOA just wanted to give a little wave to everyone. So say hello, Edward. Mr. Edrag.
How's everybody doing? Hope y'all are safe. Love y'all.
I'll be honest with you. He was super excited to see Kyle and Matt and Aaron and Michael Rascon. We've got all these out of town guests, and I sent him a text, and he had to come and say hi. So he's the biggest supporter of officials next to me and Nate.
Your ref, you suck.
Okay, he's gone now. Sorry, you can resume, Kyle.
I totally lost my train of thought.
We should have had him in the pit when there was no fans so he could have yelled that at random times. That would have been great.
He would have totally done that. I should have asked him to stay.
Let's see, what do I got? Just a couple seconds forward, Nate. 5:23. I think it's going to be out of bounds, mid-court, sideline. Yeah, on this play. So this, just a mechanical, just a awareness thing. Just be cautious for anyone. Just keeping those eyes down too long. Pop that head up as quick as possible. Give the mechanics, sell the line, ball out of bounds, but just be cautious to kind of keep that head down too long. because once again, it's just one of those little things you could do it 100 times or 99 times in your career, but that 100th time, one of the kids will walk by and say something to the other kid, you know, and next thing you know, you've got an issue. So just keep those eyes up on the horizon as quickly and as often as possible.
And real quick, you know, just to touch on the Federation mechanic, let's make sure we're stopping the clock on this play. You know, Kyle's mechanic, he's going to point, very similar. In fact, he's actually going to point and then show the spot. But in this case, you know, make sure you stop, point, and then you can sell the line.
All right, Nate, 501. 501, it's just going to be yet another great no call. Run out, kid going to the rack, boom. Oh, you know what, Nate? God dang, we missed a play. I just realized it. Sorry to jump around, everybody, but this play made me think. Nate, can you go back to 2:20 of the first period?
Yeah.
I can't believe we missed this play. Here you go. Going to be a run out. Everybody just prep you for what's going to happen. We're going to have a block charge play, seaside drive, and then the subsequent play at the rim. Kid's going to come in, try and LeBron the play, boom, blocks the shot. Okay, so back that up, Nate. This is a really good discussion play. I'm sure we could talk 10 minutes on whether or not there's a violation as far as a goaltend or not. It's damn close. If you called it a goaltend, I'm not going to be mad at you. If you don't call it a goaltend, I'm not going to be mad at you. It's that close, whether or not. And I can't speak on the specifics of the Federation goaltend, and I work women's college basketball, so we don't have a whole lot of goaltends. But more so the takeaway on this play is here's the thing is that we have to know Lead can't offer much help on this play at the rim. He can help with assistance on the block charge. Now, it's a seaside drive, so it is Sean's play in the C. He has primary cadence, and I'm assuming he chooses to go no call because it's a slip play. No problem with that decision. Now, it's a lot for that official to process that play at the basket because I can assure you they are playing and replaying, ooh, is that a block charge? Is it a slip? Is it a charge? All that self-talk is going through their head when almost instantaneously the block occurs at the basket, and now the center goes, oh, shit. That I probably should have an opinion on that too. And now it happens so fast that you're really not going to be able to officiate that goaltend or non-goaltend. So the takeaway from this is to be more aggressive as a trail official and work harder to get up the floor and be at that 28-foot mark or slightly below when that potential goaltend occurs, because I think they have a much better chance to get this play right than the center, because the center's just going to be taking a guess at it. They're already processing the block charge slip, and now they got to add to that crazy goaltend or not a goaltend. So the takeaway being is just as a trail, don't take plays off, bust tail up the floor, and you got some athletes on the floor, know that this is a potential to happen. Did you have something else on that one too, Nate? Because we talked about this play quite a bit last night.
I don't think I think you covered everything that we talked about.
Okay.
Can you run it through again?
Yeah, Mr. Schlesinger can speak more intelligently on the violation or no violation.
That's a block shot, baby. Nice no call, boys.
Okay, game on. Now, unmute Sean and ask him Did he really know whether or not it was a great block shot, or was he processing the slip play?
Hold on, Sean.
You don't need to put him on blast, but let's just get into it.
Sean, can you hold on?
Yeah.
John, go ahead.
Well, on the play, I saw him slipping, and what Kyle was saying, I was processing block charge, was a slip up, and then I saw the shot go up, and if I was gonna guess if it was a goaltending or not, so I was processing that as well at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's fair enough. That it don't matter who, if it's you in the center, Sean, or Aaron, or myself, we would have been doing the same thing, because I guarantee the self-talk is replaying that slip play, and next thing you know, in the span of a half a second, that ball is just getting ricocheted off the backboard, and you're going, oh, wow, was that a goaltender or not? You know, it's just that's how quick it happens. So, like I said, all I would say –
honestly, I give it a no call, in my opinion.
Thanks,
what's
Brandon.
that?
I would honestly give it a no call, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and fair enough. Just like I said, all I'm saying is from a positioning and a mechanics standpoint, just get that trail official up the floor a little bit quicker, and at least we know that I know if I'm in the center like Sean, I know, okay, I got my trails, got my back to really officiate that play in its entirety at the rim. So sorry we had to jump around, but I wanted to cover that play. All right. 4:37, Nate of the second. Back it up a little bit more. Okay. Watch the rebounding action, strong side, low block. Just pause this right here. Hold on one sec, Nate. We talk about coverage-wise. We miss a rotation here, Sean. We still have 2 trails. We can speculate how it got missed, but just we would like to have Sean in that center position. Lead, good position, rebounding the action area, trails in a good position, perimeter rebound, play it through. Good, strong signal. Stay in here. Clovis coach, he doesn't know what's coming because he thinks you have a foul. Optically, it looks like the kid's over the back. If you're not watching this whole play, you probably could call that the wrong way. But Jared does a nice job seeing it from start to finish. Now, the discussion here, me personally, I like the call because I think the kid for Cruces goes up pretty vertical, rebounds the ball. Kid for Clovis kind of pins him with his top hand, and then he, in my opinion, he walks him undercut, whatever. Now, can you unmute Jared? Yeah. Just can you kind of paraphrase how that conversation went, Jared?
So yeah, the coach was like, "What? How is that on my?" And he was like freaking out, and I was like, "Coach, your player just undercut him as he went up," and he's like, "Well, he still climbed over his back." I go, "No, he was vertical, and your guy just went under him." And so once he kind of like, I think what it was, I mean, the kid's 6'7", 6'8". He's like the only 6'7", 6'8" kid in 6A, so, or 5A, whatever. And you know, it's one of those things where he told his kids box him out. The problem was is the kid was trying to jump, and he wasn't. You know, he took him out of his position. So once he kind of understood that, he was like, I mean, he still didn't, he agreed to disagree, but I think he had a better understanding of what I was talking about because, yeah, he was just so adamant that the kid went over, and I was like, well, yeah, he did go over him. He's 6'7".
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, and he, you know, and I've worked with, you know, Isler before, so I know how he gets animated and stuff. So I know some of the discussion that I've heard from other people about this was the way he kind of comes unglued and all this stuff. And, you know, it was just one of those things that I was like, I know how he's going to come at me about it. So, you know, I let him have his say, and I told him what I saw, and he was okay with it at the end, I guess. But
right. And Nate and I talked about it, and here's the thing: on this call, you probably need to, as coming off the baseline, you need to expect some pushback, because the optics of it does look like, to most people that don't do this, it looks like over the back. Well, that player's behind him, and that other player underneath is in better position. But that's not the case. So, yeah, expect some pushback regardless of what the personality of that coach is. The only thing I would say is, and this is just kind of polishing up the verbiage and being, using some brevity and just being like, Coach, there's a difference between a box out and an undercut. That's an undercut. And then don't say anything else. He's 6'7", and then all I would say is just repeat what you said the first time. Coach, there's boxing out and there's an undercut. That was an undercut.
Real quick, Kyle, Mr. Wilson Holland is on the call. You had a comment.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, as good as he is, knew exactly what I was going to come when it came to the verbiage with the coach. But also on this play, because we have a perception that white is over blue. And Jared, we've talked about this before. When my fist is up and I'm blowing my whistle, I'm going to verbalize white foul. That's just what I do. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. And then when you had your comment, when you're talking to the coach, try not to use the word no. Try not to tell the coach that he's wrong. Like Kyle said, what his verbiage was really good. Or you can say, hey, the look I had, he walked underneath them. But try not to tell the coach no, because that can get into something else. But Kyle, yeah.
Cool.
Kyle, you refereed a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. No, and I love to. That's one thing I love to watch, especially during summertime. Is I love to watch the interaction with the coaches and of the officials, is because each and every single one of us. I mean, there's always, it's just like, I love it when you watch that interaction, that communication take place, is because, and do this in summer camps when these camps resume or this, that, but if you see a certain situation in a game like this or any type of game, and there's a tough play or whatever, and you see that official say something to that coach and the coach just goes, whoop, and it's dropped, I want to know what that official said, because obviously it was so effective. And that's one thing over the years that, man, I try and reach out and grab every opportunity when that happens to learn the communication of that whole situation. Like, what did you say, or how did that go? And then on the flip side of it, sometimes, unfortunately, it goes the other way, and there's like something gets said and it's a flashpoint and all hell breaks loose. And you're like, not to pour salt on that wound after a game, but you pull that official aside and you go, want to walk us through that? How did we get from A to Z so quickly, So because you can call plays all night long, but if you can't communicate with some of these coaches, it's going to be a detriment. You got to be able to talk. And I'm not saying, Jared, I'm not saying this is poor. I'm just saying it's a pretty lengthy conversation to me to a play that's pretty automatic, It's not normal to that coach, but you were all over this play, and that you very politely and just give him the courtesy and say, Coach, I know what it looks like, but there's a box out and an undercut. That particular play, that's an undercut.
We talked about this one as far as
positioning.
Not getting sucked in.
Yep. So can you pause it before we go to the rack?
Yep.
So maybe half court. So here we go. Yet again, another breakaway. Both officials working their tails off to get in position. Lead gets in position. Center gets in position. And then basically Sean kind of overexerts and gets a little aggressive and gets sucked in. And we compromise our good look. And so what happens on this is, I think this play goes back to we had a play earlier in the first period where it was the play that we had talked about, where we had a good no call, and then we had a little bit of I guess what I would just speculate is just a little bit of anxiety on that subsequent rebound, and then we put a whistle on the rebound. This to me is a similar play where We have yet again a great no call at the basket. And then we have that little anxiety that comes up on us, and we put a whistle on the rebound. Now, with that being said, you got to understand is as the lead, you're officiating the play at the basket, and then you are switching to that rebound action. So you got to be honest with yourself. You don't really have start, develop, finish on the rebound contact. You're just getting the tail end. And so we put that whistle on it. Whereas if we trust, I got to play at the basket, my center official, if they are in good position, they're going to get those trailing perimeter rebounders, trailing rebounders crashing the board. I can trust them that they've got that play. And if Sean just pulls up and free throw line extended, you are in a great position. You hustled to get there. You just overworked a little bit. Lead, trust the center. Center's in position. Hopefully we don't put a whistle on the rebound. I mean, you guys are just working your tail off. We just overran the play a little bit. Lead, just come up with just a little bit of that anxiety must have creeped up on us with that yet another excellent no call. 3:38 is the next timestamp. Just another example of another good no call. Great consistency. Here we go again. Breakaway. Clovis, take it to the hole. Sorry, got nothing for you. Good position by the crew. Just working the system. Next play, 55 seconds to go.
All right, here we go.
What play you got here, Nick?
55. We talked about this is the 5-second call.
Yeah. So, we could spend a lot of time on debating. By rule, is it correct? Is the defender within 6 feet? Yeah, he is. The only thing I would say on this one, Sean, is this. I would think that they will probably give you other more egregious opportunities to possibly put a 5-second on a play. With the way this game has been, up and down, athletes just hooping. Nate gave me some insight. 5-second closely guarded is a point of emphasis for the Federation.
It
correct?
Has been the last couple of years, yep.
It has been. So, okay. Is it 5-second? Defender, is he within 6 feet? Yeah, he's putting his hand out. Could we agree that it's probably not super competitive? He's not right up in his grill? Probably. So if you want to give the perception that you're aware of the 5-second call, maybe just start the call a little. And this is just my opinion. It's, if Dana and the powers that be or the observers say, hey, we want these 5 seconds closely guarded called, then call them. But me personally, the flow of this game, I don't know if I would interject this call into the game right here. It doesn't fit, if that makes sense to the group. I just think there's probably other opportunities, and maybe not so much in this game and other games. They'll give you opportunities to get a 5-second call. So just food for thought. And here's the interesting part is, so the next subsequent play, we have this delay with substitutions and this and that, and it's kind of hard to see the vantage point of the video, but I need to move my box over here. So we have a technical foul. And it was interesting because I'm like, we have this 5-second call, and then all of a sudden, the coach for Clovis gets a technical foul, and I'm like, what? Seemed to me like we didn't have any really, frustration with the coach other than that rebounding play he asked about. But I'm like, wow, man, he obviously got pretty upset about a 5-second call. And I'm thinking to myself, that's kind of why you don't interject it. But Nate made me aware that. So what happens here is 6 players on the floor, Nate.
Yep. In fact, I'll let Curtis. Curtis is on. I just unmuted him. He can explain the call.
Oh, hey, Curtis.
Hey, guys. Sorry I was late to the party. So on this particular play, player from Clovis actually comes off the floor after the violation by Sean. And we counted, looked at Jared, I think looked at Sean as well. We had 5 Clovis players. You can't see it on the screen, but I think what happened is the Clovis head coach or the assistant coach started counting their players, and they didn't think they had 5 on. So the guy that came out got pulled back on by the coach, threw him onto the court. And that's when I noticed, and I can hear the Clovis, and this is one of the things for me, and it's just a personal thing, is if he would have probably came off pretty quickly, I probably went to hit him with a technical foul, because the coach literally grabs him, puts him on, and then he runs back off. But the coach from Las Cruces actually recognizes it. You can hear them, and I can hear them, and I start kind of picking up, okay, something's going on here, and that's when I counted 6 players, and I'm like, there's no way that I can back out of this technical foul, and that's when he got hit with the tech. So you can see him there in the left hand of the screen. He's coming off, and he just sits down.
You know, and it's tough to critique this play because you can't really see the specifics of what you just described. And I just know one of my early bosses in my career when I had 6 players on the floor, technical foul, and I'm not saying this, you know, the shoe fits on this situation, Curtis, but my boss at the time, he said, you know what, 6 players on the floor is always our fault. And
Right.
As we know, that's not necessarily correct, because you can have a kid come flying out of the floor and nothing you could have done stopped them. But you know, I'm glad you kind of gave us some insight of what happened, because, and once again, we can sit here and kind of armchair quarterback it, and it sounds like you already did, is what could I have done to prevent, you know, that player, that 6th player, and maybe it's just a matter of, you know, just telling the coach, hey, coach, hold up, you know, or whatever the case may be, or telling the kid, get off, you know, because per the rules, you know, if we can get that kid off and it doesn't cause a delay, then we can kind of sidestep that technical foul. But like I said, it's tough to critique it because we can't really see what happens. And I'm sure with your experience and you probably were already thinking that what you could do to, you know, kind of circumvent that technical foul. So.
And this game was pretty smooth, and the table was smooth. The coaches were smooth. The game was smooth. And as far as, you know, bringing kids in the game, we did a heck of a job doing that. It's just one of those things where you get in that mode, you get laxed a little bit, and you don't take that second peek at the bench to make sure you have that 5 and on back to the floor, and it catches you. Just like you talked about, you know, the point. You know, that 99 times nothing might happen, and that 100th time it'll catch you, and that's exactly what happened here. So,
yeah, and I mean, look, we've all had these things happen to us in our career, and it's just, I tell you what, it just makes you that much more aware going forward for years ahead. Is you're like, I'm not going to let that happen again, and sometimes these things have to happen for you to go, okay, that stung. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again. So that's pretty much 21 seconds, Nate. Yep, play it out. You can play the replay. Play, yep. Keeps jumping. Just yet another example of just a really good no call. Here's a replay. Got not 1, but 2 defenders contesting. First kid swipes, gets all ball. Just having the courage and the fortitude to not get sucked in on these, and just know that, no, sorry. Block shot yet again. So strong first half, a lot of block shots. I would assume we got nobody in foul trouble. Curtis, why don't you just kind of, give some insight what the dialogue, what the conversation was at halftime. What did you guys talk about? What was the, the temperament of the game? How did you guys feel?
Hold on, let me get back to Curtis. Sorry. Trying to figure out why. All right, Curtis, you're good.
Okay, sorry about that. Actually, we went up. We felt really good as a crew. I mean, this is something that we pregame, given the fact that we know that Clovis and Las Cruces, two big teams, one of the two biggest teams in the state tournament. We did a heck of a job in the first half, being really patient. That's something that we pregame to say, you know what, start, develop, finish, process the play to have decisions, and we did that. And we felt good going up the ramp. And that's exactly what we talked about. We said, don't interject ourselves. There's no reason to interject ourselves in a game where we're not needed right now. Like I said before, the game was running pretty dang smooth. So really, we just talked about just staying in our area, trusting each other, trusting the system. And if we needed to come out of our primary, if it's something egregious, we can do that, but trust each other. And that's basically what we talked about. We did talk about the sixth player on the court to ensure that, that doesn't happen again. And we were pretty damn thorough about doing that the entire second half. So that's probably the only thing we talked about where we felt we needed to improve. But other than that, Jared and Sean, they did a heck of a job during that first half. So we just wanted to continue that going into the second half.
Yeah, and I would concur. Yeah, it did. Whatever you said at halftime just carried over in the second half, because really, if it's not broke, don't try and fix it. I mean, I think you guys set the tempo early on with so many excellent no calls, and that just carried over. So, and you don't have to overanalyze it sometimes at halftime. You just got to keep up doing what you're doing, trust one another. And,
I think a lot of the times too, and I've done it, I've been there, you don't feel like you're putting enough whistles on the game, or you're not part of the game. And you start putting whistles on plays where you don't need to have a whistle. And I think, just Jared and Sean, you guys did an outstanding job, because you can get into that mode, not trusting each other and putting whistles on plays that don't need to be there. And gosh, that was probably one of the best games that I officiated, whether it be at the high school or collegiate level. That was a nice game to officiate.
Yeah. Well, and I think you touched on it, is that we all have to be on guard for this, is we have that, I call it inactivity anxiety. Like, you'll be like in the first half, you'll have one whistle, and you feel it. You're like, man, I don't feel like I'm pulling my weight. I don't feel like I'm contributing. And that anxiety, whether you acknowledge it or not, it starts to build, and it starts to make you come up out of and on your toes. And sure enough, you crack one or two whistles, and they're not there. And to kind of counteract that is to, what Curtis said, you just go in halftime, you just say, hey man, let's just keep doing exactly what we're doing. Don't need to insert ourselves, and, our no calls are our best calls, and let's just keep doing it. And you got to basically self-talk that inactive anxiety and just keep it at a minimum. Third period, moving right along. Third period was, all four were very good, but the third period, you guys were all over it. There was, we had a play at 7. Can you go to about 7:37, Nate?
Yep.
Yeah, just a little bit further. Okay, so the play here, just pause it for a sec. Ball goes to the deck. Got a little bit of a scrum. Can you back it up a little bit?
Right there?
Yeah, that's good enough right there. So, Sean, great position in the center. Actually, the whole crew is in excellent textbook positioning, coverage. So the ball goes to the floor. We got a scrum, tie up, not a tie up. Ball squirts out. And can you roll it forward a couple frames? So ball squirts out, and now if we pause it, so our trail, Curtis steps out, he's on that, goes with the ball getting squirted out. The one thing I would say is, doesn't hurt us in this particular instance. 99 times out of 100 doesn't hurt us, but just be mindful of that 1 out of 100. As the center official, your primary responsibility is keep an eye and clear those players on the floor. In a game with a little bit more animosity, a rivalry or whatnot, there's been some stuff previously in the game. Those two kids go to the deck like that, and we as the center, we go with the ball, and so we have our trail and our center looking at the ball squirting out. Meanwhile, the two players on the floor, something may happen. We hope to goodness that our lead picks it up if it does, but better yet, just from a coverage standpoint, Sean, you're in the center. You're right there next to that play. Just stay with those players and clear the floor, make sure they get up, and there's nothing between them. There is nothing between them. But like I said, that 1 time out of 100, something will happen, and we're playing catch up. Some words are said, an elbow's thrown, and then we get the second kid coming back with a retaliation. Nate, go to 533 and just play it out. So 533, you're going to see exactly what we did in the first half. Cruces, run out, breakaway, goes up, sorry, block shot. Best part about it, comes right back to the other end. Oh, I mean, you get served up an opportunity to bookend these plays, back-to-back possessions, and we do exactly what we talked about at halftime. We just allow the defense to block the shots. Just a great sequence, bookend the no calls, picked up right where we left off in the first half. If you get a chance to watch the game at home, Sean, just the 405 is another play where I want you to look at your lead rotation, sweep the lane, block, elbow, elbow, block. Just watch that lead movement. When you hit that opposite lane line, we kind of back our shoulders into the rotation. So just walk more with it's kind of hard to describe, but just open up a little bit more to the playing floor rather than closing off those shoulders. Next play, Nate, go to 124. We're going to have a seaside drive. Comes in transition. Okay. So, correct call. Coverage-wise, and Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we did. You clarified for me that the Federation mechanic floor coverage is the same as the NCAA on this. Aaron and Wilson, I'm not sure if the men's NCAA is the same as the women's NCAA or the Federation, but on these, a transitional play, seaside drive, primary defender, that is the C's primary defender. Lead can come in with a secondary cadence.
Wilson and Aaron, I have you unmuted.
I believe on this play, Kyle, you're 100% correct. They want us to get plays, drives down the lane, or if there's a play within the lane. This primary defender is outside the lane. The center has a great look. Well, that could be the center's play. I'm not going to say he has a real good look at it. But even for us, that's outside the lane. And we're going to let the center – because it's not a secondary defender. It's a primary, if I'm correct.
Right.
We're going to have the C get first crack at that. If we don't have a whistle, then we'll have a cadence whistle by the lead. That's my opinion on that.
Correct. And, I mean, I can speculate, and I know you're on the call, Sean, but I don't see anything in your body language or a twitch in that shoulder or anything that makes me think that you were going to pop this. So to have Curtis come from the lead, I think obviously we know we have to have a whistle on it, and it is a correct call. I just want the takeaway for the group is to just know that these seaside drives like this in transition, that's a primary defender for the C to have first crack at and lead, have a secondary cadence. Here's the little caveat too.
John, and I just noticed this. I don't know if Kyle picked it up either, but it almost looks like you're going to give him the like a flop signal.
Yeah, I saw that. That's what it looks like. But I mean, you can unmute Sean, but I don't think he's going to get up. That's.
You remember this? Hold on, Sean. Sean, do you remember this one? Hold on. Okay, Sean.
Yeah, after watching it, I don't remember it live, but I don't remember giving my flop single like I am right now. But
yeah, I mean,
that was a good. I think I'm giving
get up
Carl a good sign, or what? I don't know what I'm doing right there.
I think you're going to Curtis like, you are the man. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Because that's what I'm doing.
That's what I do when I work with Wilson all game long. It's a weird play though. It's a little bit funky. It's not clean. We got an offensive player who, on contact, decides to jump backwards. So I like the call though. Put a whistle on it. Move on.
Well, and we can talk about this. I think we talked about the takeaway for the group. But the nice thing about this is here's the best part is. So we have this. We call it a block at 124. Nate, jump ahead to 35.7 seconds. Just play it. Yep, play it. There you go. Here's the thing. We can talk about these plays all night long, but just now you just bookended that conversation over. Everybody's happy. We're so consistent. Curtis does a nice job of just somewhat, I mean, they're not totally similar, but we have some contact that he just deems both blocks. The decision making is just, it's on point. Neither coach can say boo because we are consistent. Go to 12-9, Nate.
12 seconds?
Yeah, it's that out of bounds play.
Oh, yeah.
Whoops. So here's just a play that this is just a basketball IQ, basketball feel. So the pass goes in to the cutter, and I don't know if any of us really see it, have the best look at it, but kid throws the ball in. There's a defender, and we see 13 kind of come away from that contest awkwardly. So our basketball IQ tells us, damn, he probably fouls him. Even if you can't quite see the foul, I think the educated guess on this is, and let's see, Curtis, are you in the yeah. So Curtis is like, help. You know, this is where one, if we had to do it over again, I think our IQ says pop it, stay here, and think to yourself, it was probably a hedge or probably a reroute, you know, and hope that your center or your lead official saw something egregious that they'll come in and overturn it. But, and like I said, that's nothing more than a field play.
So Nate, I know you had muted me on this play. So actually, I knew who it went off of. I knew it went off of White. My gut said that he got hit from behind. And so really when I come up to say, help me with an out of bounds, I was trying to trigger a thought, and it really didn't go over this play, but I was trying to trigger a thought to my partners to say, okay, he got hit, let's keep it here. And that's the reason why that I asked for help. You know, it's just something that my gut said, you know what, he did get hit. Maybe somebody says we keep it here for that particular sake of it. But, like you said, Kyle, maybe we just come with a whistle and keep it here, given the fact that my gut and just my instincts say that he did get hit. So that's why I'm coming for help. I knew it went off a 13 white, but that's the reason why I was giving that indicator.
And Curtis, it brings up a great discussion. Years ago when not everybody had a cell phone camera and we didn't have all these HD cameras in these arenas, you could take in that educated guess and you can go, yeah, it's white ball. But if it clearly goes off white 13 and as great as high level as your thinking is, and you're like, how can I give this ball to them because I think we missed a foul? Sometimes you just got to eat it and know that it's too transparent to just make that shit up. Years ago when I started doing this, yeah, you could, that's kind of what we talk about, just kind of managing the game. But as much as your inside goes, oh, I want to give the ball back to white, we totally missed that foul. Sometimes you can't, Now, if it's a bang bang and it's, you could discuss it and it's 50-50, absolutely go white. So, I mean, your thought process was right on, But I know over the last few years that I have had to move that needle a little bit to go, especially on, like, for example, like a fast break drive to the hole, and it looks like, ooh, they might have got raked, but then the ball goes off the offensive player's knee, and you're going, shoot, I missed the foul. I want to give them the ball back. But it's so obvious that the ball goes off their knee. You can't do that, Same kind of scenario.
Right. No, totally understandable. There's too many cameras right now that you can't hide that anymore.
Into the fourth period. Let's see. 5:47. Interesting little play. I know we're at about an hour and a half here, so we'll try and finish this up and open it up for some questions. Here we go, 5:47. Just this is a funky little play, man. I had to. Here's the thing: I had to watch it like 4 or 5 times, and we don't get the luxury of doing that in a game. So, you know what? If it's that inconclusive, then benefit of the doubt. Tie goes to the runner. Tie goes to the official. We just talked about in the whole makeup of the game. I think and this is just my opinion, a more sellable call is the body bump by the defender. Because the kid pins it on his hip, but it's like, I think he kind of pins it on his hip, on his pivot foot, so he doesn't put it, and I don't know. I mean, it's just one food for thought. And maybe you were thinking Clovis is up 5, 50-50 play, call the travel, give it to Cruces. I don't know. It's just that's a goofy little play. And I guess the takeaway being is just when it comes to traveling, which I am not an expert at, ugly ain't always illegal. Just an interesting play. 5:22, Nate. This play, if you're watching the whole game here, I think this was the start of Las Cruces puts on a press, and the momentum starts to swing towards Cruces. Yeah, back this up. And then put the press on, steal. Tough to see on this. My only comment would be is with all the no calls we've had and great defensive plays in this game, this looks to me like it would have fit with another block shot. And to me, the lead or Curtis's look is a little bit closed. And so once again, it's just food for thought. I think with all the block shots we had, it's almost as if 10, unless the kid reaches in on the inside, 33, who's actually you called the foul on, right? I believe, Curtis. 33 reaches in the cookie jar and rakes it. I don't know. That's an interesting one to me because as I watched the whole game and saw all these block shots and all these strips and all these caps, I don't know if we get the pushback if we have a no call on that. Just food for thought on that one. Okay. Now this is an interesting play. Nate, go to 5, just a little couple seconds later, 5:12. So pause it real quick. Here, hold on. So what happens here is we just saw Clovis was up 5, and then in the span of like 10, 15 seconds, Cruces puts the press on. Clovis gets rattled, couple quick turnovers. Next thing you know, we got a tie ball game. Subsequent throw in, and Nate just spot on nailed the pause. He pauses it right here, and Jared in the lead calls a throw-in violation. The kid steps on the line, and you can talk about it. It's super close, is what it is. So be it. Call the violation. Now here's what happens. So we have the violation. Play it a little bit, and then pause it for me, Nate, just a couple frames. Super close. Boom. On the line. Okay, pause it. It's a big call. Pressure. The temperament of the game has just been jacked up. Huge momentum swing. Just be careful, Jared. Look at your body language. Completely turned away from all the players. It's an out of bounds violation. Just snap that. Keep your head towards the players and just point. Give the ball back to Cruces. But just be careful because here's what happens. So we call the ball out of bounds. We're going to give it to Cruces. Play it, Nate. So the clock keeps running. Okay, I believe Curtis hits the whistle, recognizes, and it's still running. So it still kept running to 4:46. So can you guys, did the table crew or did one of you guys recognize, oh shoot, the clock ran?
Let me unmute all of them. Hold on a second. All right, all three are unmuted.
Yeah, I'll actually go first. So actually, when I'm at a frame on this one, and I turn to the table, and generally I'm looking at clock every time we blow our whistle. I look at the table, have a conversation with the table, then I look, and Isler from Clovis is calling a timeout, so my attention goes to him. I'm not looking at clock. So I hit my whistle, I'm looking at Jared, looking at the players, looking at Sean. As I'm going to report the timeout, I can hear the radio guy behind the table saying, hey, the clock's running 15 seconds. I've run off the clock. I think it was 15. And I'm like, oh, so I look up and I see the clock was, I think, stopped at that moment. And I go to the table, and mind you, the table, and I think we take this for granted because the table at the state tournament is actually the Mountain West crew for UNM men's games, and I think the women's games as well. And so I think we take that for granted and think that they're gonna manage that clock for us. And so as the radio announcer is asking me or telling me that there's 15 seconds run off, I asked the table, and Paul Lawson says, yeah, I think we ran too much time off. So I asked the table, do you have any knowledge on what that time would be? And they're saying, oh, maybe 7 seconds. So I asked our alternate, and she doesn't have any information. And so we have a monitor there at the table, and I'll just tell you what I told her. I'm going to go ask Sean and Jared to see if they have any knowledge for it. And I said, as this replay comes back up, see if you can gain any knowledge from there. And so I ran to Sean and Jared, and Sean actually had information to provide, and he said, hey, there's actually should be 5 something on the clock. And so I said, okay, perfect. You're for sure that was the clock, because I have no knowledge. And I asked Jared. I don't think he had any knowledge either. And so I went up and put the time back up, and that's how we went about it. So I don't know, Sean and Jared, if you have anything else to provide on that, but that's generally how it went. And I think we were off by a few seconds though.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. To Curtis's point, I can concur that the Mountain West table at New Mexico is one of my favorite. I love that table crew, and I do put a lot of trust in them. However, throughout the years, it's and working with Nate and other, Matt's still on the call. Like, it's a personal challenge to me to be a clock person, you know, and because there's one that's just a, you know, people talk about, hey, you know, and it's a little harder in the summertime because sometimes these club tournaments, the clock runs and this and that. But when you get in some of these games like this, and there's an opportunity like this, and as the lead, Jared, when that ball goes out of bounds, like I said, we talked about just turning away from the play. I just know that I don't do it 100% of the time, but I try as often as possible. When there is a foul, a violation, ball goes out of bounds, one of my first things I like to do is just glance at the clock. And with some of my peers, we even sometimes in certain situations, we'll play what's called the clock game, and it's your responsibility to know what that clock is at all time. So here's the thing though. So whatever happened in this and that, monitor, no monitor, do you know like how it looks if, and it can be any one of you, is if that ball goes out of bounds and, you know, all of a sudden you see the clock running, and whoever, any one of you, and you purposely do it, you know what that ball was when it went out of bounds, 508. And you stay within, you keep some spatial distance from that table, and how just nails it looks to literally yell from a distance, not yell, but to loudly go, hey, ball went out of bounds at 508. Because now you have just projected and voiced to so many people, whether it's your coaches, the table crew, even some of the fans sitting in the front row. Not only have you guys been just throwing dimes all night long, calling it just an outstanding game, but holy shit, you're keeping track of the time too. You have just like doubled down on your competency of doing your job. Is not only are you getting all these plays, are you catching these inbounds violations and this and that, but holy cow, the person knows the clock too. It's just a subtle way to, like, you know, you get asked all the time, you know, how do I separate myself? How do I get that job to the next level and this and that? It's opportunities like that where you really can showcase that, man, oh man, in addition to keeping track of this and that and this and that, they're doing the damn clock too. But that's why I say it's also important that you keep a little spatial distance from the table so everybody gives you the credit for knowing the clock. Because if Curtis knows the clock was at 508 and he just turns around and he tells them, hey guys, the clock was at 508, can you put it back at 508? Nobody knows he gets the credit. But if you do it far enough that you have to project your voice and give them the answer to the test, everybody looking at you like, man, that cat knows their shit. So this is just one instance where, you know, I'm not going to fault you guys that much, but it's just a little thing. It's one time out of 100 you were given an opportunity to, you know, to just do that and get some extra props. So what happens is the ball does go out, or the violation is called at 508. We have the delay in the game to fix it and to gather intel and get the information. Curtis, commend you for trying to utilize within the rules to try and get that correct time. But we come back in, and what did we look at last night, Nate? I think we do the throw in at 5:01. Yeah. So we put the ball back in play at 5:01. At the 5-minute mark, not the biggest deal in the world. You do that under a minute and you don't know that time and you don't have a monitor, 7 seconds we could be in a lot of trouble in a different situation. So just a great learning play. That's a really good, I like that play. Go to 332, Nate. Just so everybody knows, we only got 2 more plays, and then I don't know, Nate, if you want to do like a quick restroom break for people, and then for those that want to leave the call, and then for those who have questions or whatnot. So 332. I only want the only discussion on this play is this to me just almost looks like an automatic, almost like a take foul. Does number 10 from Cruces embellish? Probably. But I feel like the defender from Clovis pops him with 2 hands. We just got to be careful letting these play out, because we can get ourselves in trouble, because this is an automatic and it doesn't hurt us because the ball doesn't pop out. But right here at the tip of the circle, pops him with 2 hands. Just be mindful of that even with 3 minutes to go in the game, that's almost an automatic hard hand check. And then last play, it's just interesting. It's just an optics thing. This would be something that I would critique myself pretty hard on, and I've been doing this for a little while. I would watch for this, but right here, can you back that up to about 151, 152? And even though I'm going to be talking to Curtis on this one, I could just as easily be talking to myself. So 151 here, I just watched Curtis. Great floor presence, poise, just relaxed. We got a 1-point game, state quarterfinal. Just look smooth, in control. That's what that body language, that's what that presence says to me. Just roll it forward, Nate. Just looks smooth. Smooth. Jump ball, right?
I think they rebound and then they call a quick timeout.
Okay, so there's a timeout. So is this where the commercial is?
Yeah.
Okay, so play the commercial, but I want you to come back from the commercial. Okay, it's just about over, right? Okay, we'll back up. Back it up. Catch the very end of that commercial, because remember what we talked about?
Yeah.
Keep going. Back it up a little bit more. That's fine. Okay, so there we go. All right, play it. Can you go frame by frame a little bit? So we come out of this timeout. Now, I'm a huge fan, a huge advocate of having great rapport with our coaches and having buy-in, and the job that you guys have done. If I'm that coach, I probably would want to do the same thing. Like, hey, man, whatever the conversation was, irrelevant, but it's like that is believability, and that is trust, But all I would say is that just be very mindful of the optics. It seems like such an innocent thing, but just be mindful. You're in a 1-point game with a minute and change to go, and here the coach is, and Nate and I talked about this last night. This is really a tough spot for us as officials, because obviously the coach is very approving of what we're doing, and we somehow have to let them know that, Coach, I can't have you do that right now, because who knows what the other coach at the other end is looking at. But we also don't want to be like, break up that rapport and break up that trust by saying something wrong or come off the wrong way. I joked to Nate last night. I'm like, I don't know if there's a perfect way to say it or whatever, but I'm just like, hey, Coach, I'll take that back rub, but not right now, or something like that. I don't know, but all I can say is the takeaway is just be mindful of where we're at in this game right now, and that type of kind of contact, and like I said, I'm the biggest fan ever of having great rapport and buy-in with those coaches. And obviously you have it. Just be careful of the optics of how that looks the other end. So now the other point on this is we just saw that whole previous sequence just poised, smooth. And now we get ready for this throw in. And it's almost like your body language, Curtis, is just like all of a sudden you got amped up and you're really like dialed in and like, woo, like fired up. Can you play it, Nate? And I'm literally talking like 4 or 5 seconds, but just the squatting and just the like, it's almost like we're ready to pounce a little bit. And like I said, I only pointed out because I have identified some similarities and the exact same thing that I will do in that situation. So I just try and be extremely mindful of that now. I wanted to just keep that same composure and optics that 10 seconds before you had. And that's the only reason I bring that up.
I think a lot of the times, even on throw-ins, my mind goes to, okay, is there going to be a quick jump shot or a quick three-pointer? And so my body language goes, okay, well, I got to contest. I'm probably going to have a contest point of contact play, so I need to be aware of it. Rather than if it's a front court set, I'm more relaxed. So I think that's where my mind goes initially, and then maybe I'm calm after that. But you can still see me here in this play. I'm still kind of ready like a linebacker. I don't know what that
right, exactly. And that's why I'm saying, I was like, I'm not picking on you because the only reason I saw that is because I tend to do that once in a while too. And it's just like the problem is we got to be mindful that sometimes the mind goes where the body is. And so if you're kind of ready to, ready, set, go, that's just the time that all game long you haven't had quick whistles. You've been patient. And it would just, like I said, 97 times out of 100, it doesn't change the game you call. But those 3 times, take it from somebody that has had those 3 times in their career and it stings. And that's the only reason I bring it up.
Oh, I hear you. Absolutely.
And so, so that's all for the timestamps. And I know, Curtis, you weren't quite on the call yet, but I just reiterate, I mean, I watched this game in its entirety, and to piggyback what you've already said, it was a very well officiated game. All these timestamps I have are just food for thought, coverage, blah, blah, blah. But overall, I mean, I would work with any one of you. It was just a well officiated game. And like I said, I don't think either coach could say they didn't get a fair shake, or these kids, could say that they didn't get a fair shake. Very consistent. And I just loved you let the racehorses run and let them play, and you block shots. You didn't inject bullshit that wasn't there. So,
right.
So like I said, Nate, I don't know if you adjourn for a little restroom break and so a few people can jump off, or how you want to do it.
Well, yeah, if you need to get going, go ahead and feel free to jump off, but we'll go ahead and take some questions. If you there's a raise your hand function on this thing, so raise your hand if you have a question. I'll unmute you and we can ask Kyle some questions. Anybody? Any questions? Yeah, let me go ahead and Corey Collins. Go ahead.
Hey guys, just a quick question on that travel call, where we thought C might make that call, and then I was curious. It kind of originated outside of the lane with the primary defender.
What's that?
What was the timestamp on the travel? Where the better decision might have been the foul?
I think it was 5:47. Yeah,
I think it was 41-36 Clovis, I think.
Yeah, it was 5:47 of the fourth.
So what was your question?
So I just wanted to see if so technically, like the primary defender slips off of him, then yeah, he gets bumped by the secondary defender. But it kind of originated outside the lane. So how do we determine if lead picks that up or if C picks that up?
You want me to answer that, Kyle?
Yeah, go ahead. They're probably tired of listening to me.
Corey, on that, that's a play in the lane.
In the lane, okay.
Yeah, that play is in the lane. It's at the rim. We want our leads to take that play.
Okay.
Now, our outside official is probably going to help with travel on that. So our center has probably the best look at feet. But in this play, the contact definitely is a lead play.
Okay.
Okay.
Because it's secondary defender. Okay, got it.
Well, and it's a transition play, so.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Okay. Stephen Parr, were you raising your hand? Hold on, let me unmute you. No?
What's that?
Okay, no. Aaron, go ahead. Let me unmute you real quick.
You got me? Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Cool. Hey, nice job, Kyle. Great job, fellas. Just a couple comments. One, Kyle, you mentioned, and we get these especially in big games, but coming down to the wire, you got 1:46 left in the game, coming out of a timeout, and all of a sudden you go, whoa, here we go, quarterfinal, 1:46 left, crunch time. The only thing they're going to remember is the last 2 minutes. So what are you doing, Kyle, to kind of, and you said you go through this a little bit, trying not to get amped up, trying not to get into the moment, but just get back to where the zone that you've been in all game long. Is there anything that you do, self-talk or what have you, that you do that gets you to take your shoulders down, be in the moment, and just referee?
Yeah, I think, it comes with just more and more experience being in some of those close games, but really it's not to kind of break away from the fundamentals that you've been doing the whole game. Just trusting one another, and just honestly is just, what we talk about all the time, just referee the defense, call the obvious, stay in your primary, and just literally from a self-talking standpoint, I know that especially you get under maybe those last couple possessions in the game and, depending on your situation, it's just like my self-talk is usually kind of the opposite. And I've said this in camp probably 100 times, is, we get in that game and, the team's, it's a 1 or 2 point game and you're in the lead. And by nature, we as officials will go like, oh, they're going to foul her. They're going to foul him. They're going to foul him. They're going to foul him. So you've prepped yourself to make a decision already. Whereas, you've got a tie ball game, and I say to myself, I'm just like literally say the opposite. I will be like, you're in the lead and you just go big block shot, huge block shot, nothing but a block shot, nothing but a block shot. That way, when the play actually occurs and you go, wow, that's too much contact, and you have to flip it, by that time, now you've decided to put air in the whistle, you're not going to have that quick whistle that would be exactly opposite of what you've been doing all night long, letting these plays play out, having these good defensive stops, so, and it's just, so I guess that's just an example of it, but just down the stretch, it's just like, just relax, just poise. It's just self-talk, I guess.
I can go back to the game that I worked with you, Kyle, and I know that I started to tank. It was a tight game. We're in the last 2 minutes, and the one thing that you told me was, hey, the next the last 2 minutes of this game, shrink your primary and throw strikes, and that's you're not calling balls, you're not calling, you're just throwing strikes. So.
So, and that was my point is mentally we're creating some self-talk that is putting us in a position to simplify and make good decisions. And, that's something to think about and create on your own and talk to people about, because being in that state in that point of the game, that's going to be the difference in making those good decisions and continuing to do what got you there, and don't change anything now with 146. No, the only other comment, Kyle, was, what are you drinking? What's in the cup tonight on the happy hour?
Well, since I knew I had to do a little bit of speaking, I'm actually drinking cold brew. I'm an unalcoholic beverage tonight.
Nice.
Maybe next week when I'm on your call, there will be something a little different.
Oh boy. All right, cool. Awesome.
Any other, let's see. Let me get through here real quick. Mr. Brandon Wright, buddy, what's up? Let me go ahead and unmute you real quick. Go ahead, Brandon. You got a question?
Yes, sir. So I had actually a couple things to talk to Kyle about along with you. One thing was that, Nate, how you mentioned the back pocket rule with me, right?
Oh, yeah. That's a Jimmy Casas thing.
Yep. So, Kyle, whenever you deal with giving a technical foul out or something, whenever a coach is popping off, whoever the hell is doing what they're not supposed to be doing, when do you unleash that back pocket rule?
When do
so what is it? What Brandon? I think what Brandon's asking is kind of what is your ceiling? At what point?
Brandon, I mean, it's just we all have a different threshold. I mean, there's certain times where certain stuff is automatic, especially with the point of emphasis and some of the guidelines they put forth last year. I mean, there's certain things that are automatic, but as far as an escalation technical foul, it's we all have our line in the sand. It really, and it's different situations. I mean, if your partner kicks the shit out of a call and the coach is over there giving it to you, I mean, that line in the sand has to move, because you have to anticipate them giving you some pushback and giving you some frustration. But with experience comes, I guess, the tools to, tell that coach, look, that wasn't our best call of the night, and I'm going to allow you to sit here and yell at me for a little bit of time. But at some point, you got to turn the page. And if you don't turn the page, then we'll have to move forward accordingly. And that's a very considerate, kind of respectful kind of way to say, okay, take your few shots, but then turn the page, and we're going to have to move on. And if they don't, then we got to do what we got to do. But like your back pocket thing is like, back pocket implies to me, and I would probably need a little clarification from Jimmy Casas, but a back pocket thing is like, a coach takes a pretty good shot at you at the end of a game it's in the books. It's, team A beats team B. It's not contested or whatever, and they take their cheap shots, and then they say or do something that is probably easily a technical foul, and you're like, you save it for a later date. But that opens up a whole nother discussion. We as professionals and having the integrity, we really got to try as best as we can to wipe the slate and go into the next game. And I think we do, but a back pocket mentality says to me that I'm going to wipe the slate, but the next time I have that coach, my line in the sand is moved up a little bit more. I won't put up with as much, because I do have a little bit of a memory. I'm still going to give you the courtesy of, I'm a professional, I'm going to do my job, but you don't get as much rope as, say, another coach. So if you're going to choose to hang yourself with it, I'll get you.
Right. Hey, real quick, just to kind of clarify the back pocket. So what Jimmy Casas kind of told us at a forum one time was that he uses technical foul, like a technical foul in his back pocket. When he feels like he wants to pull it out, he'll unbutton his pocket. Then he'll reach into his pocket, he'll pull it out and use it, as a tool, not so much to be quick. So that's kind of what Brandon's referring to. So Rebecca had a question. I went ahead and unmuted her. Go ahead.
Yes. Hey, Kyle. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Hey, good. So question for you is there a point, or I'm sure there has been many points, but whether it's a regular game or even like a really intense game where you felt that the game was getting arduous and perhaps you, whether it was third quarter, fourth quarter, whatever the case was, and how you kind of maybe you started feeling a little fatigued mentally, clearly not physically, but of course it's a mental game. So any point in the game where you feel there are factors that kind of slow you down mentally with that fatigue, so that you have to find yourself and do that self-talk to bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, you're lying if you don't. I mean, it afflicts us at all of us. I mean, there's certain times of the year where just, whatever level you're working, the volumes of the game, there's gonna be some fatigue. And truthfully, I think mental fatigue's more compromises our effort more so than a physical fatigue, because, I mean, when you work several nights in a row, yeah, your legs are tired and this and that, but trying to be mentally sharp for several nights in a row is the challenge.
But is there like a particular point in these big games that you do, whether it's I guess my example is there's times where I'll come out, do the first second quarters, because we're talking high school, then third quarter I'll catch myself kind of cruising, if you will, and I'll have to do that self-talk of like, no, let's go, like, because it's by the third quarter, fourth quarter, that mental fatigue starts kicking in. And what do you do personally to get yourself out of that?
Well, one thing, depending on the crew you're working with and how comfortable you are with them, I'm transparent enough to maybe make a comment to one of my crewmates and be like, man, I'm just not as sharp tonight, and kind of disperse some of that burden on, if you're working with somebody that you trust and you can rely on, to have them help you kind of, break out of that slump a little bit. But like personally, I mean, I think it just goes back to the same end of game self-talk is like, okay, just minimize the workload, meaning just literally throw strikes in my primary, just referee the defense, call the obvious, go back. Those three fundamental tenets of what we do that's like my reboot. When you're off, you're feeling mentally fatigued or even physically fatigued. It's those three tenets they're kind of back to square one, to be like, okay, let me just go back there and let's start from there and move forward. It's the same strategy for a recovery strategy where you kick the shit out of a call and you're like, you got to get it back. It applies in that scenario as well,
Absolutely. Thank you.
Are there any other questions before we let Kyle go? I know while you're thinking about it, I want to thank some of our out-of-staters that are on. Of course, Matt Head, thank you for being on. Michael,
thank him. He didn't say shit.
Yeah, I don't know why we're thanking him. Shailene Dye from Utah, welcome. Let's see. We had Mike Roscoe. Did I miss anybody? Aaron Schlesinger. Any out-of-staters? All right, Dana, you have anything?
Everybody's getting fatigued.
Hold on, I'll unmute her. Sorry, that's strike two.
You asked me a question that said you can't unmute yourself. The host has to do that. Thanks, Nate.
Week one it was Dana Who, and
Dana Who, exactly. You're digging yourself a hole here, buddy. No, nothing really. Just Kyle, thank you so much. And I don't know if Wilson's still on. Wilson, thanks for being on and contributing. And Matt, apparently we're thanking you, but not really. Shailene, thank you. I really do appreciate you guys doing this. But the NMOA, as you all know, we're big on our family, and our family has definitely expanded to the Pacific Northwest and Utah, and we've got some really good people that continue to be in the fold. But for the officials from New Mexico, I just want to say thank you guys for dedicating time to your craft and for giving up a Wednesday night. I know that you've got families, you've got all of that, and this is your off time usually, so the fact that you're still working hard and learning from one another is certainly appreciated. So thank you for joining us, and Kyle, great job as usual. We appreciate you joining us as well. So we'll be back on next week with Aaron Schlesinger. Aaron, are you still on? I think so. But Aaron, next week we're actually going to move it to 8 o'clock because Nate and I have an executive board meeting at 6. So for those of you who are going to tune in next week, it'll be at 8 o'clock rather than 7. We'll send an email reminder out about that, but we're looking forward to that as well. And thank you all, and stay safe and healthy. And Nate, thanks for getting these put together, even though you don't know who I am or how to unmute me.
Right. And Kyle, any final words before we end this thing?
I just have a question. If the meeting starts at 8 next week, does that mean can we start cocktails at 6 still?
Clearly. I mean, Nate and I can't. We'll be at the executive board meeting, and then that would be frowned upon. But you all do what you got to do.
No, all kidding aside, I just want to say, hey, thanks for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. I know I've been involved with the association for a few years, and just a great group of officials. And, man, just keep at it. Keep up the good work. The effort I saw in that game film last night, tonight, was just, man, if your officials are doing that, it's they need some help in Arizona to come this way.
Hey, stop that. Don't poach our officials, man.
Everybody stay healthy and be safe.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, everybody.
Everyone, have a good evening. Trying to get out of here.
Me too.
Man, all right, ending meeting.